Hello, I'm Professor Donna Byrne, and this is the Estates and Trusts online module on how to use skills and values. Okay, after viewing this module, you should be able to find skills and values on Blackboard if you haven't already. You should be able to navigate to the Minnesota Probate website. You should be able to find the appropriate samples that you'll need to complete the exercise, and then you'll have an idea what we mean when we say that you are to adapt the samples. So first of all, read the chapter. In this case, we'll talk about Skills and Values Chapter 1. Focus on the client. Who is your client here and what does your client need from you? Now, if you read this, if you've done this, you notice first of all that the focus seems to be on somebody else, on Sally. Sally is the testator. A testator, of course, is someone who has executed a will. And Sally is also a decedent. A decedent is somebody who has died. Sally is not our client. Julia is our client. I mean, how does Julia fit into this picture? Well, she's part of Sally's family. Sally is Julia's aunt. Julia's mother has already died a few years ago. And we're told that Sally also has a brother, George, who is still alive. So in the diagram, the green boxes represent people who have survived Sally. So it's Julia and Uncle George. In addition, Julia is the executor, and that means that she's the PR or the personal representative. Okay, so as the executor, we know that Julia now has to figure out what Sally has and who gets it. All right, so first of all, we're told what Sally has. There's her home and all the stuff that's in it, a savings account, and a joint checking account with Julia. And very minimal debts, about $600 owed to 3 different clients. Okay, so what's the assignment? Well, you're asked on this one just to do task 1. So that's the first thing to notice. Which tasks have I actually asked you to do? You don't have to do all of them every time. Task 1 says prepare the pleadings and the appropriate notice forms. Okay, what do you do next? Well, first thing, we need to know which forms we're going to need. Then we'll have to find some samples of those forms. And then finally, we adapt the samples to fit our situation. Okay, so figuring out which forms. Okay, if this is a real client or someone in your family, you could go to the Minnesota Probate Court website and then choose the forms there that are the most appropriate. Okay, we'll go to that website and see what that looks like. I have it down here already, right there. And here it is, the Minnesota Judicial Branch 2nd District, serving Ramsey County. And we've been here before. I sent you here in an earlier online module. If we scroll down a bit, here's the informal probate section, and right down in here are the forms that you will need. So we need the forms for informal probate with a will. We'll pull up the PDF and see what that looks like. Here it comes. It's actually kind of a brochure. Let's make it a little bit smaller so we can see it. Informal probate with a will. It gives you some criteria for whether this is appropriate. We've pretty much already looked at those. Let's see. So we'll scroll down. Oops, I passed it. There we go. It tells you what you need. Here are the forms. Complete the following documents. So there's your checklist if you're doing this with the Minnesota Informal Probate Guide. Okay, and further down, they actually give you samples or forms to fill in. So here's the first one, application for informal probate, and you can see there are lots of lines to fill in and so on. Now, one point is that there may be some forms here that you don't need, so you want to make sure you only use the forms that you're actually required to use. Okay, but we're not going to do that actually. We are going to go through Blackboard, and where is Blackboard? And this should look familiar to you. Find the Skills and Values tab over on the left. Click on that. And here are all of the different chapters. We're working on chapter 1, so I click on that. And here's the materials for this chapter. Some of them are out there on the web. Here's the guide that we were just looking at. There are some links to statutes, the Minnesota Probate Code. But what you want right now is materials to be used by students while doing the exercises, application for informal probate. Now, since we already determined which forms we needed, we can choose from this list of sample forms. And let's take a look at this one, application for informal probate. This is a Word document file, which means that it will be easy to edit. I want to open it. Okay, here it is. And they all kind of look like this. Sample pleadings and application for informal probate. This is very similar to those forms that you saw over there on the Minnesota website. All right, so what we need to do to adapt this is delete these parts that tell us it's a sample. So I will highlight that and delete. Oh, got to enable editing, sorry. Now I can do it. Highlight, delete. Now I will also delete this part. Number 1, application for informal probate. I think the number 2 is inventory or something like that. That's also part of the skills and values added on garbage. So we delete that. Okay, now you feel, you know, it may, if you're not used to looking at these, it may feel like there's no title. Actually, it's right here. This is the part that tells us what the document is. Application for informal probate of will and for informal appointment of personal representative. So notice that. Notice that these little gizmos in the middle here are lined up to kind of form a line between the left side and the right side. And then over here, this is a generic form, so we need to type in our state, Minnesota, county. Okay, we don't need the line once we've got the actual word there. Okay, look what happened. This got all goobered up. That's because this is a Word document. You change anything and you've changed all of your formatting. So I need to straighten those out again, and now it looks nice again. So then we'll fill in Sally Elizabeth Wright, and you go on and fill in the parts that you need. Okay, so this is what you do for all of the forms. Figure out for the exercise which ones you need. And for this one, the Minnesota website listed 4 things. Notice that both on the on Blackboard and also on the Minnesota probate website in that informal probate guide, there may be some forms available that you don't actually need. You should only submit the forms that you do need. And I want to caution you, we are going to do the inventory in the second assignment, so you don't need to do that now. Okay, when you've finished, go to page 10 in Skills and Values and read the self-study. It asks you some questions about your process, about what you thought about how you prepared the documents, and then email your finished documents to the professor, to me. Okay, then go to Blackboard, back where you found all the samples, and down at the bottom, look at the materials to be used by students to check their work. And they will show you their versions of the completed documents. And then you can think about whether there's something you would do differently. And one thing you will notice on their versions is that they didn't take off that title at the top. Okay, so just to wrap it all up again, read the chapter, figure out who your client is and what they need from you, figure out what you need to do, which forms you're going to need, find samples if you need samples, and then adapt the samples, submit your work, and evaluate your work. And I hope you enjoy doing these.